Are you still green? Do you know how to weather the storm? Is it a good or a bad thing to be a gatekeeper? Hey, what's going on guys? Shane here, and today we're talking about expressions and terminology used in fighting that you should know, whether you're a fighter or just watching the fights, like on New Year's Eve. It's the 2019 Professional Fighters League Championship. It's all going down at Madison Square Garden live at the Hulu Theater, Tuesday, December 31st. 6 world title fights, 6 $1 million belts on the line, and 6 champions will be crowned. They'll be walking out of Madison Square Garden with a pocket full of cash, walking into 2020 millionaires. But the ball doesn't drop until the belts are raised. So you can watch it live on ESPN2, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or how about watching it cage side? iHeartRadio is giving away 2 VIP passes so that you and a guest can get access to the Cage Side Club, open bar, and complimentary food. Who doesn't want to be in New York on New Year's Eve? So, enter the contest, links in the description below. You'll be able to find all the details there, and I'll see you guys out in New York City. But until then, let's take a look at the first term that you may have heard. Weather the storm. You may have heard this expression used inside and outside of fighting. The first time I heard it was after my first round sparring in a boxing gym, and I went back to the corner and my coach said, "Way to go, you weathered the storm." And I said, "I did?" Because I didn't know what that meant. What it means is when your opponent or sparring partner comes out aggressive, forward pressure, really putting it on you and throwing a lot of shots, and you're able to avoid it without taking too much damage or exhausting too much energy. It means that you weather the storm. The same way a rainstorm comes, it can't last forever, right? Heavy downpour, and then the clouds start to break and the sun comes out, and then all is calm. If you weather the storm, your opponent will then be tired afterwards, and then you can start to pick them apart. Mouse or shiner. Can I hear it used in a sentence, please? Sure. That SPAZZY white belt hit me with his elbow and gave me a shiner. And it's pretty much just a black eye. Usually when it starts to heal, it turns like yellow and it has this shimmery glisten to it. And then a mouse is a lump or a bump, usually around the eye from an elbow, a punch, or a headbutt. SPAZZY. It's usually a word that describes an energetic white belt in jiu-jitsu or someone who's just getting started in sparring and is kind of all over the place. They're not really relying on technique so much as muscle and strength or explosiveness. There's no real method to the madness. They're just all over the place. And this often results in an accidental headbutt or an elbow to the eye or something like that. So a quick tip for someone who is just beginning and just starting to spar and may realize that they could be a little spazzy, worry less about winning and worry more about improving. Green. What does it mean to be green? In a sentence, it would sound something like, "Hey, can you work a couple light rounds with my guy? He's still pretty green." And what that means is inexperienced. He doesn't have a lot of round sparring. And it's not so much a derogatory term like spazzy is, it just explains their level of experience. Cherry picker. You may have heard this term used to explain some of the highest level fighters in boxing. More so you're going to hear this in boxing than in MMA because they have the ability to pick and choose who their competition is. The reason why they would do this is because maybe based out of fear or style, they don't want a chance getting a loss on their record. They don't step up to competition, they'd rather have an easy fight. Padded record. I'll use this one in a sentence and you'll be able to figure it out. That fighter's got 20 wins and 0 losses, but it's a padded record. I heard he drove down to Mexico and fought a bunch of cab drivers. So a padded record is someone who's trying to build up those numbers. They're trying to get a lot of wins and a lot of ring experience, but they're not really going against high-level competition. So if someone has a padded record, even though they have a lot of experience, it's not against high-level competition. They're not really pushing their limits. Tomato can. A tomato can or a bum is pretty much the cab driver that just fought the guy who had the padded record in the previous one. A tomato can is usually describing a person who has no training at all or very little experience, and they usually get into the ring and fight and get beat up just so that they can make a couple dollars. Technician, or as the Thais call it, Muay Themer. Now, if a commentator describes you as a technical fighter, it's a very big compliment because it means that you use all of the weapons in your arsenal. You're not a one-trick pony. You're very calculated with your movements, you're very precise, and you're always balanced. Some fighters that are described as a technician are Sanchez and Floyd Mayweather. Ring rust. This is one that you've probably heard and know, but I would describe it for someone who hasn't fought in a year or more. It's that performance anxiety when you walk out to the ring or cage, and once you get in there, knowing that you have thousands of eyes on you. So if you haven't been actively fighting, then you may have some ring rust. Gatekeeper. Now the gatekeeper is someone who usually hovers around the same spot on the rankings, and they're not able to make it up to the top to the title contenders. It's not the best to be a gatekeeper. It means that you're a skilled fighter, that you're a good fighter, but you're usually a test for up-and-comers. When an up-and-comer goes against the gatekeeper, if they win, that usually means that they're ready to go against the top fighters in the division. Slippery. You'll hear this term used in grappling and in MMA when someone gets out of a submission. Usually it's when someone is literally slippery from blood or sweat, but it also is used to describe someone who can scramble, get back to their feet, or like I said, escape a submission clearly. So I guess being slippery is a compliment. Punchy. Someone who's punchy is someone who's taken a lot of hits to the head in their career, and you often see a change in their behavior or personality. Some signs to tell if someone is punchy is they'll slur their words, they'll be quick to anger and be very aggressive, or they'll fall into a depression. There's a lot that doctors are learning about CTE and trauma to the brain, but even though we love that style of fighter that will just take a punch and keep moving forward, that style has long-term effects that should not be taken lightly. Alright guys, there you have it. So when you're watching the PFL 2019 championships with your friends on New Year's Eve, you'll be able to bust out some of this terminology and sound like a pro. And don't forget to enter the iHeart VIP ticket giveaway. Links in the description below. Come hang out with me in New York City. Until next time, I'm Shane with Fight Tips for the Underdogs.